Hi everyone. Today we are going to start our session with a new video which is relevant to installing Minikube in a Windows environment which is running in VMware Workstation. This is your instructor Adnan Hussain in my YouTube channel Instructor Online. So this is our Kubernetes administration series part 1 in which we are going to explain you the key steps how to configure an environment which is having VMware Workstation, and it's a requirement also. You are going to produce a virtualized environment which would be available to you locally in the form of your desktop, or and you can install it in your laptop. So VMware Workstation, preferably you better use Workstation version 14 and above in this case. So you need to install a virtual machine which would be using as a virtual host for hosting containerization and Kubernetes cluster master node and one worker node. So in my environment, I'm using Microsoft Windows 8. The minimum requirement for this particular virtual machine would be vCPU 4 with 4 GB minimum memory, which is required. Then once you have installed the operating system, as I told you that I'm using Microsoft Windows 8, so you are going to configure the environment. Like you need to configure Hyper-V inside the guest operating system, and you need to configure the hardware configuration of the virtual machine. This is what I'm going to explain you practically. And then you need to download Minikube software. So prior to install Minikube software, you need to download it, and you need to configure the environment as I have already explained in above 3 steps, as you can see. And then you need to install Minikube, which you have just downloaded in the previous step through using this particular URL. And then you need to test your cluster environment. Okay, guys, so this is my environment in which I have just configured a virtual machine in my VMware Workstation 14, version 14, as you can see over here. Its version number 14 is, you can see, with build 7528167. And this virtual machine configuration is, I have just configured with the hardware configuration. I just wanted to show you. It is 8 GB, but you can go with 4 GB configuration with 4 virtual processors. To save side, I have just configured with 8 GB and installed with guest operating system Windows 8, as you can see. So in this environment, I have configured the following options. So I'm going into control panel, and over here, I just open it up, and in programs and feature, I'm just going to turn on Hyper-V if it is already turned on, because I have just already done that. So you need to check both of these options, and then you need to click OK. So it is going to ask you for its system is being updated, and it may require a restart. Moreover, when it is being restarted, and if you are using not the VMware Workstation environment, but the physical host, then you need to go into the BIOS settings of the physical machine, and you need to configure Intel VT is required to be enabled in this case. But in case if you are using uh, your Windows 8 as a virtual machine in your VMware Workstation, then again, you need to go back to the same virtual machine's hardware configuration or hardware setting page. Over here, you need to go to options, and in the hardware options, wait a moment, you need to select the processor, and you need to check these two options. In the hardware tab, you need to select these two options. Virtualize Intel VT, which is equivalent to what you are doing in your in your physical environment, going into BIOS and checking virtual Intel VT, and you select virtualize CPU performance counter. So once these two things have just been selected, then you go to the options, and in the options you need to, so on the same page in the options you just select general and go to the version of your Windows. At this particular selection, you may find the same operating system version which you are just using. For example, I'm using Microsoft Windows 8, so you would find Microsoft Windows 8 over here. It is grayed out because the virtual machine is powered on. If it is the VM is powered off, it will be in a configurable or writable condition. So you need to drop down, click the drop down, and you need to select Hyper-V, unsupported, and then you click OK, and you power on the virtual machine. So once you have just comply with the hardware configuration and the guest operating system configuration as are done, then open up inside the guest operating system, open up your elevated command prompt, run as administrator. Over here, you need to download the Minikube uh, software, and you need to copy it somewhere. And you need to install Minikube. So Minikube installation is required first, then we are going to use this. So in this case, I'm going to open up my location where I have just put up the software. It is located over here, so in Docker uninstall folder, and I'm just going to install it, run as administrator, Minikube installer, and I just agree with the EOLA, and then I'm just going to install this software. So the Minikube has just been installed in my environment. Now I open up my command prompt with elevated privileges, and I type Minikube start. So it is a setup that is going to be initiated, which is going to look at the guest operating system environment requirements, which satisfy the Minikube setup. As you can see, it is going to be deployed. So meanwhile, it is happening. I just wanted to show you Hyper-V Manager. My typo mistake, sorry for this. So I open up Hyper-V Manager in parallel, and you can see that the Minikube virtual machine is being prepared by Minikube installer. And the hardware configuration for this particular virtual machine you can just look into. Just right click, go to settings. You'll see the memory and the CPUs. Now wait for time. How much time does it take? And it come up. I'm just pausing my video up till it just get installed. So as you can see, it has just completed the deployment of the Kubernetes architecture, including the containerization, and it has enabled and kubectl is also configured. Kubectl is a client and interface, command line interface that you are going to use to administer Kubernetes architecture. So we are going to have a brief video in our next session right after this. So we have completed our Kubernetes architecture, and just let me show you about this. So I'll just punch in Minikube status. It's going to tell me, it is going to tell us about its current Minikube deployment. So one host virtual machine is running with kubelets, API servers, which are running inside the master node of the Kubernetes instance, and kubeconfig is configured. So this is the environment we have just made to have hands-on in our local installed and configured environment of Kubernetes. That's all for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching.